Hello again and welcome to part 3 of my fretworking video series. If you haven't watched parts 1 and 2, it might be a good idea to watch those first. Anyway, now let's get on with part 3. 1907 was a very bad year for the Hobbies company. 2 events occurred, both of which were to have a dramatic effect on the company. The problem started on the 28th of February at around 7 PM in the evening, when a worker spilt a can of oil which unfortunately was set alight by a naked flame. Another worker upstairs heard crackling and went to investigate. The 2 workers tried in vain to put the fire out, but it was too late. The cans of oil and paint stored above exploded and fed the flames. The fire brigade was called, but they only had a horse-drawn steam engine and could do little to put the fire out. In any case, by the time they arrived, the fire covered a quarter of an acre of the site and the surrounding properties, including the railway station, which was in danger of being set alight. The damage caused was immense. Most of the bespoke machinery was either lost or badly damaged. Furthermore, it had not been easy to replace, as it had been made by Hobbies themselves. Most of the moulds and patterns used in the manufacture of the castings to make fretwork machines and other tools were destroyed. The total cost of the damage to Hobbies was around £25,000, which in today's money would be equivalent to almost £3 million. The moulds used to make the popular Rogers fret machine were lost in the fire, but by the autumn Hobbies were back with a new model named the Brighton, which was not much different to the Rogers machine. I mentioned that 2 events were to cause huge setbacks for Hobbies, and the second event also occurred in 1907. Although it is fair to say that not a great deal is known about this second occurrence, what is known is that at some point 4 employees of Hobbies left the company and started up their own company, calling it Handicrafts Limited. 2 of those that left were company directors, one of whom was Frank Skinner, who you will remember from earlier was the brother of Hobbies founder John Henry Skinner. The reason Frank Skinner and the 3 others left Hobbies is unknown, as no records exist. Even worse for Hobbies was that one of the 4 that left was the head designer, leaving them in a precarious position and looking for a new designer. As the 4 left Hobbies, they took with them the names and addresses of over 80,000 Hobbies customers and proceeded to send them copies of their own magazine entitled Home Handicrafts, Arts and Pastimes. This was very similar to the already established and popular Hobbies Weekly magazine, no doubt due to the fact that, as I mentioned in part 2, that Hobbies Weekly was the brainchild of Frank Skinner. Obviously Hobbies were not too pleased that their customers were being poached and took action against Handicrafts in court, resulting in Handicrafts being banned from using any of the information they had taken from the Hobbies records. Furthermore, Hobbies were awarded damages of some £1,500, which today in 2021 is equivalent to almost £180,000. The events of 1907 caused a huge amount of animosity between the 2 companies, which lasted for many years, resulting in further court action against each other. So now we have 2 companies to discuss, both offering similar services and products, and I'll tell you what I know about the Handicrafts company in part 4. The main difference between Hobbies and Handicrafts was that whilst Hobbies made most of their products in their own factory at Dereham, Handicrafts mostly sold items manufactured by other suppliers, and not always British ones. In 1911, Hobbies introduced designs for their so-called Antofret system of fretworking. It had been invented by an Italian priest, Monsignor Antonini, who was a keen fretworker. Antonini contacted Hobbies, who sent over to Italy their chief engineering director and an experienced fret cutter. He showed them his work, designs and ideas. They were so impressed with his work that they adopted his system for their designs, calling the process Antofret in honour of his name and a lasting reminder of his invention. Today it's commonly known as bevel cutting, and sadly the word Antofret has all but disappeared. I have done a 10-minute video to accompany this series showing the principles of Antofret, which you will find on my YouTube channel. Here is a short extract showing the principles of Antofret. Hello and welcome to another of my videos on fretworking and scroll sawing, as it's more commonly known. In this video I'm going to talk about the Antofret method of fretworking. Now here's a simple example of Antofret or bevel cutting. where you can see I've cut a simple floral pattern here. It's probably a little leaf, or it might be part of a flower, that doesn't matter, and a seagull. Now in the first instant, if I press on the seagull that way, you'll notice it protrudes through the work, and if you sandpaper carefully around this, it does give quite a nice carved effect. On the other hand, with the flower or leaf, if you press it, I've cut this one in the opposite direction, so to speak, and you can see it's inset into the wood, which gives a similar carved effect. Now if I turn it round, you'll notice that it's quite the opposite. Now you've got the leaf which is sticking out in relief, which again I've sandpapered around the corners to give the card effect, and on the seagull it's inset. Using this method you can get some quite attractive patterns which do give a sort of a carved effect to your work. But it is quite difficult to do, but I'm going to show you now how to do it. You will find a link of the full video on my YouTube channel, and there is a link in the description of this video. Such was the interest in fretwork in the early years that Hobbies created a club entitled the British Society of Fretworkers. Their aim was stated as the enrolment of fretworkers of all grades of merit in the UK and His Majesty's colonies, and the advancement of the art of fretwork by various considered means. What a mouthful. Originally Hobbies called their society the Royal Society of Fretworkers, but they were forced to remove the word royal when someone reported them to the Home Office. Now I wonder who that was. Surely not their rival Handicrafts, who Hobbies had taken to court a few years earlier. My recent research suggests that Hobbies were not actually the first to create a fretwork club. I believe that honour goes to the Handicrafts company, and I will explain this in part 4 of the series when I talk about handicrafts. Membership of the club was strict, and to enrol one contacted the registrar, who would send out a test paper and a pattern which the prospective member would have to cut out in wood and return to prove one's competence before being allowed to join. A certificate was then issued according to the standard of the return work. In December 1911, the first annual exhibition was held at the Memorial Hall in London. Over 800 items of fretwork were entered into the exhibition to be judged in the various sections of the competition, whereupon prizes and medals would be awarded for the winners. The proceedings of the exhibition commenced with a musical programme including the song Come Over the Garden Ward by Miss Dora Murray. The official opening was made by the chairman of Hobbies Limited, Alfred Germain, and was followed by various demonstrations in the art of fretwork. In the evening, more music was performed by various artists, interspersed with more fretwork demonstrations and the awarding of the prizes, with the final closure of the event at 10 p.m. by the singing of the national anthem. The coronation of King George V took place in June 1911, and Hobbies, not missing an opportunity, published a special coronation issue of Hobbies Weekly magazine featuring several designs with a coronation theme. One such design was a fretwork model of the coronation chair. Shown here is a copy of the actual design sheet from 1911. About 20 years ago I made this very model from the design sheet, cutting the whole thing out using a Hobbies hand frame and a wooden cutting table. I showed the hand frame I used in an earlier video. As you can see, it contains a stone of scone, as the original chair once did. It's actually a piece of granite I found in the garden. You can find the history of the genuine stone of scone on the web. Another elaborate design that Hobbies published was the coronation overmantel number 11. Overmantels were very popular at the time, and both Hobbies and Handicrafts published many intricate designs for them. This amazing design was published in 1911. Shown here is the original design sheet for it, but I received it in a very dilapidated condition with parts missing. I'm gradually restoring this design sheet for posterity, but I'm not sure whether I shall ever use the pattern. You have to take into account that these design sheets were created by hand in the days before we had computers and copying machines. I have a huge amount of respect for the designers who must have spent many hours creating these wonderful designs. World War I was declared on the 4th of August 1914, and Hobbies Engineering Works were busy making munitions for the war effort, but all the way through the war they continued to publish their weekly magazine, designs and annuals, although because of paper shortages the number of pages was somewhat reduced. During the war years, Hobbies produced many designs based on a military slant, such as toys, models of guns, picture frames, mirrors and various brackets, including the ever popular pipe racks. Hobbies had always encouraged their customers to sell items of fretwork that they'd made, more so during wartime when few manufactured toys were available. They even offered this card to hang in the window advertising "Fretwork cut here." Many of the fretwork designs at the time featured sailors and soldiers or the king, and some carried words such as victory or God save the king. This design features a British plane shooting down a zeppelin and was entitled the Brave Deeds panel, whilst this attractive photo frame features two British sailors alongside an ornamental anchor. Another elaborate design for an overmantel shows a line of men from different nations who served alongside British servicemen. Hobbies Weekly also did special issues such as this naval number from 1915. Many of the adverts in the magazine at the time had a patriotic slant, such as this one which advertised fret saw blades, featuring the British bulldog and the words "Let them all come." Another advertises Hobbies British fret saws with the words "Stick to your own country," and it's a product that easily beats a German. I mean, imagine doing that today. Hobbies also offered some new toys during the war. One was the Clip-It outfit, which was rather like a Meccano set, only using different lengths of wood held together by small metal clips, unlike the metal Meccano outfits. Also introduced at the time were their popular strip work outfits. These were similar to the Clip-It range, but more work was involved as the wood pieces supplied had to be cut to size rather than being pre-cut as with the Clip-It range. The outfit, of course, included all the tools necessary, including a saw to cut the wood. Well, that's about all for this video. I shall continue Hobbies' story in a later part, but I'll end part 3 here, and hopefully you'll join me again in part 4 of the series, when I speak about the Hobbies' rivals, the Handicrafts company. So hopefully I'll see you then. Bye for now.